Yo, episode 16, man. We here, yo. We here. But check it. In this one, we talk about the 35th anniversary of Wild Style, the movie. Of course, you have your favorite segment, how to approach women, to buy a drink or not to buy a drink. We're going to talk about herbal remedies and health. Like, do they really work? We're also going to talk about the woke police, man. I stay woke. So, yo, check it out.
I like the rhymes.
All of us are born with the miraculous ability to determine the direction from which sounds approach us.
Let us venture into new and uncharted land.
People get shook up, when I'm introduced as God.
You got that good hair, too.
You're the first one out there with a dashiki talking that crap.
It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
I pull up, hop out, air out, made it look sexy. They won't take me out my element, nah, take me out my element.
I have a correction for, I think, episode 13, where I talked about crossover fatigue with Marvel Comics. I know I'm geeking out. I forgot to mention one in there, and that would be the Axis crossover. So that means there was 10 crossovers between 2010 and 2017. And what that was about was when Rick Remender's first run on Uncanny Avengers, where Red Skull stole, it's kind of dumb, right? Red Skull stole Professor Xavier's brain because, of course, Professor Xavier died during the Avengers versus X-Men crossover, AVX. He was killed by Cyclops. And he took his brain, so now all of a sudden he's a telepath. So he tries to, project evil thoughts to people and influence people, meaning the general public. And the superheroes have to figure it out. And what ends up happening is it flips. So villains become good and superheroes become evil, not evil, but evil almost So it's a dumb crossover, but nonetheless, it was a crossover that they did. So the only good thing that came out of it was Sabretooth became a good guy. So Sabretooth was kind of like a good guy now. So yeah, there's that. Crazy moving from the South. We lived in Virginia for 10 years, and I was stationed there for a while. And then seeing how and that's in the background. I'm at Face Your Fears Haunted House in Enon, Ohio. Anyway, we go from living in the South where everybody thought Halloween was the devil, and then we moved to the Midwest, and it's kind of it comes to late September all the way to the 31st. There's haunted houses and haunted fields and haunted hospitals and police stations all over the area. And I think it's kind of cool. I love it. It's just crazy to go from one place where you didn't see that kind of stuff and then go to a place where it's all over the place. So shout out to Ohio for that, man. Because I will say this, as much as I hate the cold weather, they do the fall really dope. They really do the fall really dope. Word. Again, I'm always missing stuff. 35 years ago in September, the movie Wild Style was released. And in my opinion, and I know people are going to argue about this, in my opinion, Wild Style, the movie, is the only hip-hop movie. And when I say the only hip-hop movie, I mean that it had all the elements of hip-hop, right? With the exception of knowledge, but it had everything else. It had writing, which y'all know is graffiti. It had DJing. It had b-boy or b-girling or breaking, right? It had MCing, right? But what made it different from, say, Beat Street, because Beat Street kind of had the same thing. But the thing about Beat Street is that they had actors playing these artists, right? Whereas in Wild Style, right, they had, for example, Lee Quinones played the main character. Lady Pink played his love interest, right? You had Rocksteady Crew in it. You had Grandmaster Flash. You had the Fantastic Five. You had the Cold Crush Brothers. You had Double Trouble, and they were all characters in the movie. They weren't being played by actors. You know what I'm saying? You even had my man Zafir. I think a lot of people don't give it love. It's one of the lesser known one because B Street was produced by Stan Latham, and he did a lot of stuff. Whereas Wild Style was directed by Charlie Ahern. But the music was done by Fab Five Freddy. So a lot of times I really don't. I guess B Street had more of a bigger distributor than Wild Style, and B Street was like played out at more theaters than Wild Style. So I think it's kind of messed up because, I mean, if you really do the math, both of them, the acting was horrible, right? For everybody, the acting was horrible. But I prefer Wild Style over B Street because Wild Style feels more authentic. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you even had Don D. White, the late great Don D. White, the Master Style General, as a stunt double for Lee Quinones. Like, I mean, come on, son. Like, how dope can he get? You know what I'm saying? You also had Lady Pink, who I love Lady Pink. I think that was her last appearance on a video. Later on, I think like 25 years later, 30 years later, she ended up being in this documentary. And she's one of the people that believe, and it's funny because she played that part in the movie where she felt that writing or graffiti was separate from the rest of hip hop culture. So I thought that was really interesting. But also, you know, Fab Five Freddy, who looks the same in the movie, is in it. I mean, you got to give him props for that. I mean, it was just dope all around. And you had Rocksteady in it. You see Crazy Legs in it. You see the late great Frosty Freeze in it. So, I mean, you can't go wrong. And then that scene where Grandmaster Flash does the backspin and you kind of like really see how DJs got down back then. I thought that's super important. And I just, the last scene we're at that one spot down the Lower East Side. Double Trouble gets in there. Fantastic Five battles. The Cold Crush Brothers, you get to see a young Grandmaster Caz. I mean, there's just so many dope stuff. You see Busy B in there, Busy B doing this little rhyme. I mean, it was just dope, man. So, yo, like, I think you should check it out if you haven't. Should be in your collection, Word is Born. I know it's on YouTube, so definitely Wild Style. I might have talked about this before. I don't know. I usually talk about it on my PSAs on IG. But self-love is crucial, right? We all know that, right? Especially in this day and age. In most cases, self-love is an act, a revolutionary one at that. So just one thing, though. Self-love is not a prerequisite for finding intimacy with a significant other. It's not. There are people that are in wonderful, happy relationships with wonderful people, and they don't really love themselves like we might assume that they do. But then again, who are we to measure self-love, right? So, but it's not a prereq for finding love. Word is born.
Yeah. I think Chris should run first on this one. I think so. Yeah. I think Chris should run first on this one. I think so.
So we're going to continue with our discussion about Zulu, Universal Zulu Nation. You're going to hear me refer to it as Zulu. I think like a lot of people don't understand the structure of it. In like the early 90s, the leadership was turned over to what is called the World Council. And Bam, Afrika Bambaataa, we refer to him as Bam. He used to run the entire nation, right? But then it just got too big. And he was also busy, making a living DJing. So they decided to create a world council made up of leaders from around the world that literally were a council, and they kind of like ran the day-to-day operations of the Universal Zulu Nation. So, we sent our money to, our dues and everything, or anything we need to that was important. We sent it, and we got it through the World Council, and we communicated with them as much as we could. And then you had chapters, just like any other organization. You had the main body, then you had chapters all over the world. It had its peaks and lows. It had its moments when it had several chapters, and then it kind of like died down, then it peaked up again. But that's how the structure worked. You had chapter leaders and you had vice presidents, and then they all had, their structure as well, just like any other organization. And a lot of people always thought that it was, loosely put together. And initially it was, but then it became much bigger. Now, one of the drawbacks was in 1996 under the Clinton administration, he passed what was called the anti-crime bill. And under the anti-crime bill, Zulu Nation was considered a gang. And then there's a lot of legal ramifications that are involved with that. And I'm not going to get into it that much, but that, it made a lot of chapters get into some problems in their area because they were, in most cases, really technically, Zulu Nation was considered a gang. Anyway, again, I repeated it earlier. I talked about it in the previous episode 15. I talked about how I was involved in Zulu Nation for 18 years. I was a chapter leader of the Solar Flare chapter in southeastern Virginia, which covered about 7 cities. I ran that chapter for 5 years. And then when I moved to Dayton, Ohio, I started a chapter here at Gem City Zulus, and I ran that chapter for almost 2 years before we decided to dissolve it. So I was in it for a while. I had a chance to interact with different chapter leaders and members from around the world. And some of them are still my friends. Some of them are still people that I interact with. So that being said, a lot of people, we had hoped that when BAM, when this situation went down, we had hoped that BAM would have stepped down and removed himself. Again, he doesn't hold any leadership position per se, right? I don't have to go through him to get things done, but he had what was called an influential position, right? If he said, I don't like this, people usually listen, right? But then that's where there was a problem. And it's kind of like, when you have a president and then the president, finishes their term and then another president gets elected. That former president might have influence, but not enough to sway, say, Congress, because that's really what the World Council is. But because he had that influence, they ran into a lot of problems later on that circumvented the World Council. And what happened later on is what led to probably a lot of problems that we have. I'm going to get into it in the next episode. I hope this helps you out. I know it might be boring, but in the next episode, we get into why I believe, BAM was guilty of those accusations. Before I talk about the woke police, because we're going to talk about the woke police today, I want to talk about where did this, I stay woke come from. When I was younger, we considered that were you conscious, were you not conscious? And, conscious just means being aware. But I'm not saying Erykah Badu was the first one to say it, but I know that after she did that song with Georgia Ann Muldrow on her album, can't remember the name of the album, but the name of the song was Master Teacher. It came out in 2008. And there was a line in there where they kept saying, I stay woke. They kept saying that over and over throughout the song, even when it flipped the beat towards the end. And they just kept talking about, what if more people were master teachers? I stay woke. It was pretty dope. It's a dope song. And then from that point on, and again, I'm not saying she was the first one, but she was the one that kind of made it hip. So everybody started saying, I stay woke, I'm woke, I'm woke. And then, Twitter came on the scene and people started using it. And then I'm going to say the last 3 years, you hear more and more people saying woke, he woke, she woke, they woke, I woke. And that's a song right there, right? Anyway, I might make that a joint, right? But anyway, that's where everybody started using it. And so before I talk about the woke police, I want to talk about where that kind of not where it came from, but where the wave started for it. So we're gonna talk about the woke police, and I'm gonna say this: like, it's like people run up on you, and this ain't nothing new. This isn't anything new. Like, people always want to question, whether it's your activism, what you know, what you don't know, education level, however you look at being woke or being conscious is, right? There's this woke police everywhere, and they always want to question what you know, what you don't know. And I remember being younger, like when you challenge people on what they're talking about, when it's not, especially when it's not actual facts, they always want to say you either A, brainwashed, or B, you were agent, right? They always say you were agent. Now people are just saying you're not woke, which is kind of wild to me, all of it, really. So who is this woke police? Like, who are these people? Like, who's on it? Like, because really, being woke or being conscious just means being aware. It don't really mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you know about this, but you might not know about that, right? So, there are people who won't consider you woke because you're not a vegetarian. There are people that don't consider you woke because you didn't read Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. There are people who won't consider you woke because you work for a predominantly white institution, right? Instead of HBCU. There are people who would think you're not woke because you went to HBCU. There are people who think you're not woke or conscious because you don't have a degree. There are people that think that you're not woke because you might not read a book or two, right? Or you might get your information from YouTube, whatever, however it is, right? There's going to be people that are going to say, who's woke and who's not. But what makes one woke, right? Again, it's being conscious means you're aware, right? That you're awakened by some reason, right? So it doesn't actually mean, because you can know that something's bad for you, right? Like, there are people that smoke cigarettes. Everybody that smokes cigarettes know that it's bad for you. You know what I mean? They all know it. You know what I mean? They woke, right? They're conscious of that, right? They're conscious of the fact that cigarette smoking is bad for you, right? But what do you do with that information? Like, that's really, really what the important part of that is. Like, that's really what, and again, just because you smoke cigarettes don't make you stupid. You know what I mean? I don't know your lifestyle. I don't know none of that. That doesn't mean you know less than I do. You know what I'm saying? It's just that you're not acting on that information. Again, that doesn't make me superior to you or not. Because a lot of us know, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of us go to work for places that management is racist and sexist as fuck, right? But we still got to pay rent. We still got to pay for food. We still got to eat. So, because I go to a job that, you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, like if you work for Denny's, you know what I mean? Denny's is known to be in racist management and all that. Upper, lower, middle management, they're considered racist, but they gave you a job. You gotta eat. You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't make you less woke or not. There are people that work at Walmart. Walmart is known to be trash, but people gotta eat. So do I look at them funny? Nah. So I don't think I should, right? So the matter of being woke, there's levels to it. There's levels, right? There's levels, man. There's levels to being woke and what you know, but there's also levels of what you do, and some of us got to do what we got to do. So I think the woke police needs to chill. Or how we say back in my day, take a chill pill, or like they say nowadays, have a seat. Word. And I try, man. I really, really try to avoid talking about what everybody else is talking about. I don't want to do that on my podcast, but this is something that we got to talk about. And I know last episode we talked about street harassment, but sexual harassment in the workplace. Now, the sucky part about all this, the fucked up part about all this is that with Harvey Weinstein, and let me just say this, the Weinstein Company, right, has been behind not only the biggest names in Hollywood, but also the biggest movies. Your favorite movies, the movies that you love, the TV shows that you love. I mean, there's probably maybe, I'm going to say about half the movies that I love and like a quarter of the TV shows that I love, the Weinstein Company, Harvey Weinstein, had a hand in it, right? Whether it was casting, directing, producing, putting money behind it, distributing, all that. So this thing is big, right? You thought Cosby was a rapist. This guy, wow. Anyway, but the thing is that what I'm seeing is, again, the United States, people, we, if there was an Olympic event on victim blaming, we would get the gold medal in victim blaming. I mean, dead ass. Because what I'm seeing people say is, if you get harassed at work, right, then you should come out, right? Like you should tell people, right? And we all know that most of the time, nothing happens, right? And it's like, but it's funny because like, if you tell, these things will go away, you know, and we know that's not true. On top of that, most workplaces are hostile to women. You know, I'm dead ass. And I know like a lot of people are like, well, it's not, I've never experienced that. And I'm like, cause you're a guy, right? You're a guy. That's why it's called male privilege. Like that's what that is. And I will say that one thing I do like about this whole Weinstein thing is that we're talking about it. And I think that's a good thing that we're talking about, you know, workplace harassment. But it doesn't just happen in Hollywood, right? It happens everywhere else. So we should talk about it. We should discuss it. And I apologize if I'm like, oh, I don't want to discuss. We should discuss it. So you're going to hear me talk about different things that deal with male privilege, to deal with patriarchy, to deal with misogyny, misogynoir. And we're going to get into those definitions probably at a later episode. But I think we should talk about this, you know, in the workplace. And it shouldn't just be like, oh, we're going to have a training module on it. I think it should be something that we openly discuss. Here's why. You're going to learn that some of your good friends are perpetrators of this. And that's wild. But we got to talk about it. So, yo, I gotta talk about InfoWars, man, and Alex Jones and all that shit. Like, yo, let me just say this, yo. I know a lot of cats that I love that listen to this motherfucker, yo. Word is born. Like, and don't get me wrong. I used to be a hardcore conspiracy theorist. You know what I mean? You know, I read all the books, you know, New World Order, Behold the Pale Horse by William C. Cooper. I was all up in, I used to go to the lectures and all that, yo. But when InfoWars came out the box and people started really like messing with that dude, that's when I really was like, that's when I really stopped messing with a lot of that stuff, or started to not mess with that stuff. But this cat, yo, and it's crazy because you would think that now that he's out, you know, he's like supporting Trump and all that, and Trump loves his cat and all that, like you would think that a lot of people would stop fucking with him. But they not, man, and it's crazy. So, dude, like I'm gonna tell you when I really stopped messing with this dude. Like listen to this cat. Like he used to go off early in InfoWars. You know what I mean? He used to go, and he has a fake news site, right? All that conspiracy theory. He was on that 911 stuff and all that. You know, 911 truther or whatever, and like. If you didn't agree with him, man, this dude would blow down on you, man. So that's when I used to be like, yo, this dude is funny. But I'll never forget when he had Prodigy from Mobb Deep on there. And he was like, yo, you went to jail because you was against gun control, la, 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 la. And it was like, dude, did you even read the case? He was carrying illegal guns, yo. They lock you up for that, man. And then one time he had KRS-One in there. And he was like, multi-platinum artist. You know what I mean? You know, and I was like, dude, I think he had one song go gold. He's not a multi-platinum artist. Like, you know, KRS-One is the man. You know, I'm not going to front, but, well, it's a different, let's not even go there, but we'll talk about that some other time. But, you know, like, how does a cat like this get like this big? Like, he's really doing his thing. Like, it's crazy and it's all fake, you know, but the interview you got to listen to is when he interviewed the director of that. Remember that movie Zeitgeist? Remember that joint? Everybody was watching that joint. It was like you got to watch it on the internet. I think it might be on Netflix. It might be on Netflix. But anyway, he interviewed that dude, and the dude said some things that I guess he wasn't like up for. You know what I mean? Like, Peter Joseph, that's his name. The name of the guy that he interviewed for that movie, The Zeitgeist, which came out in 2007. Wow, 10 years ago. He interviewed that dude, and he got mad, and he went off, yo. Like, it was like he like a straight clown, man. And I was like, I'm not fucking with this dude no more, man. So I was back in like 2007. I'm not fucking with that dude no more. So, but you know, there were things he did before that made me question it. But it's sad that some of the people that I dig, you know, like Immortal Technique, he's been on there, and this dude is just whack, man. So don't mess with that dude. Don't look him up. But a lot of people be joking him. Word.
Zip line McCarthy, heavy on the list. You blink my ice ring, John we bring. Yeah, that's small G.O.D. 2BC, zip line McCarthy.
On this segment on how to approach women, I had a listener who wanted to remain anonymous. Shout out to you though. You know who you are. I know this person, you know, like I hang out with this person, so it's one-on-one. Anyway, they asked if they see a woman that they want to talk to at a bar, should or should they not buy that person a drink? Now, let me just say this. My mother taught me, and it's a lesson that I've taken with me since then. I'm 44 now. She said, don't give anything to anybody that you want to give to them expecting something in return. So she said you do it out of your own free will, as a gesture of goodwill as well, and don't expect nothing in return. Not even gratitude. And I used to be like, really? You know, but she made a good point. I shouldn't give anybody anything and then kind of like get upset if they don't do certain things that I expect. She said, if you're going to give it to them, give it to them. If you don't want to give it to them out of your own free will, if you really don't want to give it to them deep down inside, don't give it to them. Or if you're expecting something, don't give it to them at all. Because she said most of the time they're going to disappoint you. This should definitely apply to a complete and total stranger that you meet at a bar, right? So, if you're going to buy somebody a drink, you shouldn't expect anything in return. So, if you buy a woman a drink, you shouldn't expect her phone number back, her Facebook, her whatever. Don't expect anything, even conversation. She's not obligated because you gave it to them out of your own free will. And that, to me, that makes perfect sense. That makes sense. Because to be honest, I don't buy people drinks unless it's like my peoples, like people that I care about and then I see all the time. I'll buy them a drink, you know, out of love. And I don't expect them to buy me a drink in return. I don't be in their pockets like that. But I'm not going to buy a total stranger a drink. I'm sorry. I don't do that. So on those two cases, I don't recommend it. And because here's my thing. If you shoot your shot, the probability of that person taking it is very, very low. And I should have talked about that in episode 1, right? The chances of success are very low. And you know, you might get a good conversation on it, but they might not want to give you that number, right? They might not want to exchange phone numbers. So I leave it totally up to you if you want to do it. It doesn't guarantee that person is going to do that. They'll be more likely to interact with you, but it's not a guarantee. So it's really on you. There are no rules, to be honest. If you meet someone at a bar, you don't have to buy them anything. I also would recommend to just approach them first, talk to them. If you get into a conversation, ask them if you can buy them a drink. And if they say yeah, then good. But I think you should at least break the ice and talk, have a little small, conversation. And then from that point, feel it and see if you can do that. That's what I would recommend. But from the jump, I wouldn't do that. And I hope that helps out. And if you want to fight me in the street, you can. Word. We're going to get back into this Hydra Cap thing, but there's some things that I got to go into, and I shall geek out really hard. So if you don't want to listen to this, you can just fast forward. But somebody asked me online, when did Marvel Comics move Hydra away from Nazism? Now, Hydra was created post World War II by Marvel Comics, and it was supposed to be that continuation of Nazism. And actually, what they were initially saying with Hydra, and this is after Red Skull was killed, you had Baron von Strucker, who took over Hydra, right? Anyway, they were saying that the Nazis were like ahead of Hydra, and when that head got cut off, like they say, two more grow in its place, right? So I guess Marvel was trying to imply that, Nazism was just like a branch of Hydra, right? So it wasn't really like, the Aryan race thing and everything, even though initially the Red Skull was about that. Anyway, but if you look at Captain America, the First Avenger, which came out in 2011, we see that literally Hydra says, Nazism is bullshit. We never was really about that. We were just using you, right? Which when you think about it, makes sense, because with Hydra is like a serpent, right? It's supposed to be like a serpent. It's supposed to infiltrate organizations and then take over, like what we saw in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, right? Now, mind you that when you look at the comic books, and we have to talk about Jonathan Hickman here. Jonathan Hickman is the man, first of all. He's a fucking man. When he did his Secret Warriors thing, which began in 2009 and ended in 2011, and that was a story of Nick Fury creating a small group of warriors that he was going to use to fight, covert operations after he wasn't the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. So, and this sinks into the Dark Avengers storyline where Norman Osborn becomes the head of Avengers, and he dissolves S.H.I.E.L.D. and he creates Hammer. I know, different story for a different day. Anyway, when you see that story of Secret Warriors, there's a story called Wheels Within Wheels. And this says that there's an organization that's even older than Hydra, right? And they're called S.H.I.E.L.D. And they've been around for millennia, right? They fought against the Brood during the Egyptian times. And Jonathan Hickman wrote a book called S.H.I.E.L.D., which came out around the same time, which is really good. And I recommend you getting it. Again, it came out around 2010 to 2011, 2012. So right during the events of Secret Warriors and all that. And later on, this plays a part into, Secret Wars and everything. I mean, Jonathan Hickman put in work. And you also got to read his run on Fantastic Four. That's all important. But we see a move away from Hydra being like this Nazi thing. This is like this organization that infiltrates other organizations. Anyway, in the Secret Warriors storyline, Wheels Within Wheels, we learn that actually in the other story arcs, Wheels Within Wheels was a story arc that says that even Hydra was infiltrated, right? But anyway, in the Secret Warriors thing, what we learn is that there's factions within Hydra that are trying to take over, and some of them have been around longer. Some of them came from the Soviet Union, which is now Russia. Some of them came from within the United States. So there's that storyline, right? That it wasn't really like a organization that has an ideology like Nazism. Anyway, if you look at the ultimate storyline, Earth 1610, Hydra is actually an organization in the United States that wants to overthrow the U.S. government and feels like it can do better. So it's kind of like a conspiracy theorist group of people. So we see different incarnations of Hydra as not being a Nazi organization. So when you put it in that respect, you can kind of see how Cap can become Hydra and that idea. The next episode, we're going to talk about how that all came about. So I hope this helps out. Peace. For this health segment, I want to talk about herbal remedies, right? Do they work or don't they work, right? And let me just give a history of it. Like, my folks from the DR, so they always had like little home remedies that they would use to help us get better. And you know what? They worked in some cases, and I'm explaining why they worked, right? And just let's make a quick note that a lot of us came from homes that had those little remedies that we needed to help us. And that's because we didn't have access to healthcare, right? So, but they work not because, and that's what we're going to talk about herbal remedies, right? Because a lot of us feel like, oh, if I take echinacea, I will never get a cold. If I take echinacea every day, I will never get a cold. If I drink echinacea tea, I will never get sick. and it's not actually the herbal remedies, because we learned that there are no studies that prove that herbal remedies work, right? The people that say, oh, if you take soursop every day, you will never get cancer, right? Which has never been proven. And then people say, oh, well, why don't they let us import soursop into the United States? It's because actually they can only grow around places around the equator. And as soon as you take them out of that climate, they start to rot quickly. So that's why there's certain foods that are not allowed to come in, because they'll rot and they'll be bad by the time they get here, unless you put chemicals in them to make them last a little bit longer, which we do for fruits and vegetables in the United States. And that's why you can have mangoes in Chicago, right? So, but that's a different story. But yeah, herbal remedies, like, no, they don't work. And what we need to notice is, like, I know people who are into herbal medications and stuff like that, but those people, the reason why they're healthy is not because of the actual herbal remedies. It's because a lot of them are vegetarian, vegan. They train and work out every day. They live a particular lifestyle that allows them to have fewer unnecessary stresses. And because stress is actually something that's normal in how your body works. But oftentimes we have too much unnecessary stress, and that's what's killing us, right? Slowly, right? So there's those people that have that kind of lifestyle. It's not the actual herbal remedies that work for them, it's their lifestyle. So again, we're always looking for one-shot remedies to situations. If I just take this, I'm good. No, it's a lifestyle that comes with it, and it takes a lot longer. It takes longer because it's a whole lifestyle change, and you have to work at creating those healthy habits. So no, it's not the herbal remedies. You want to fight me in the street, you can. There are people that'll tell you stuff like, oh, my great grandmother's cousin's baby mama's sister's friend, soror, took this and they were fine. And I'm like, no, what did you do to fix whatever ailment you're claiming that this herbal remedy does? So let's be careful on that. Shout out to the grandmas and aunties that gave us this stuff, because again, it worked because they gave us a lot of love and care. And we also would give us those herbal remedies to tell us to do what? To sleep and lay down and drink liquids and stuff like that. So it wasn't just the actual herbal remedies. It was things that came with it that helped put us at ease. Peace. So shout outs this week. First to my man Harold Cottom, and that's spelled Cottom. He be on the hunt for those collectibles throughout Miami Valley. Yo, my man be getting in. Yo, shout out to you, my brother, because yo, you take geeks to the next level. Also give a shout out to Sheena Lester. If you don't know who Sheena Lester is, she was editor-in-chief of Rap Pages in the 90s. Probably, to me, a better magazine than The Source, and we could fight about it if you want. But shout out to her, definitely. And definitely shout out to the big homie Skano, DJ Skano. Yo, I miss you, brother. We gonna hang out, though. I'll see y'all later. There you have it, party people. I know that it got mad geeky at certain points. I don't apologize for that, because I am a geek. But I appreciate y'all checking me out. If you have any questions for me, you could always hit me up at OMIS Podcast, OMIS Podcast on Twitter, or on my regular Twitter at DanTresomi, DANTRESOMI. Again, I got some merchandise coming up soon, some merch, so stand by for that. Appreciate y'all, love y'all. I'm putting some episodes on YouTube, so you can check it out there. I have episodes 1, 2, and 12 on YouTube. I'll probably be posting some more before you get a chance to hear this. Again, thank you again. Peace.